Welcome to the ID Talk podcast. My name is Peter Counter and I am the editor-in-chief of FindBiometrics, the internet's leading source for biometrics news, interviews, education, and thought leadership. On this episode of ID Talk, our own Doug OGorden speaks to Gal Diskin, co-founder and CTO of Authomize, a leader in cloud-based authorization management. The conversation begins by highlighting big takeaways from this summer's Identiverse conference in Colorado and introducing Authomize's key competencies. They go on to illustrate the current business landscape in which we have come to expect everything as a service and how Authomize fits into that paradigm, before digging into the importance of educating the broader public about identity and access management. They discuss how Authomize works with biometrics, the company's key collaborative attitude, and what's next for the company. It's a fascinating conversation about an increasingly important segment of the identity space, so let's get straight to it. Here is FindBiometrics' Doug OGorden in conversation with Authomize CTO Gal Diskin right here on ID Talk.
Hi, FindBiometrics listeners, Doug OGorden here. I'm with Gal Diskin. He is the CTO at Authomize. Hi, Gal.
Hi, Doug. Pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I had the pleasure of being introduced to your company at Identiverse last month, and unfortunately, your booth was too busy, and I was unable to do an interview. So here we are. You're in Israel, and I'm sitting here in Chicagoland. We're doing this interview post Identiverse show. How was your Identiverse, or what was your takeaway from Identiverse?
So Identiverse was amazing for us. We really liked seeing the perception of IAM growing as an industry, and especially from our perspective, the focus on understanding that it's very important to have a layer on top of the existing IAM solutions that is securing them and protecting them, just like any other segment of the market, which is what we do.
So yeah, we talked a little bit about that before I hit record. Maybe you could relay to my listeners how your solution works in the identity world.
Yeah. So, in the identity world, we have a lot of existing solutions for biometrics and identity governance and overall authentication and authorization, you could say, right? And we are connecting to these solutions. We are monitoring what's happening in there, and we are helping you enforce the policies that you need on top of that. So, for example, we can understand which passes provide critical access to critical resources in your organization, and then we can validate that anyone that can use any of those passes is using biometrics or using a multi-factor authentication or any other control that you want to apply on that.
So you're monitoring the IAM solution? You're monitoring that. That's kind of you in a nutshell, making sure that all that back-end thing, all those things are working properly.
And
great.
Securely, especially.
And secure. How have recent advances in cloud technology changed the way we work, and how does Authomize fit into the everything as a service paradigm? How does that work?
Yeah, so for starters, we are a service. We are a SaaS product, so we fit into that pretty well. But most importantly, we are connecting to the other SaaS services and IaaS and PaaS, so everything that you build or use in the cloud. And we monitor the IAM mechanisms that exist in each of those products, in addition to the centralized IAM systems. And so this is where we fit in. And I think our paradigms really shifted overall as an industry and across the entire world, where we are now focusing more on consuming services, having distributed workforce, not working from a centralized location. And this is really changing the paradigm and pushing more adoption of cloud and services.
So that the Identiverse conference, it was in Colorado, it was last month. One of the big themes we saw while covering the conference was this growing need to educate end users and relying parties around identity issues. And that's kind of where we fall. That's what our platform is an educational platform. How do you see the public perception playing a role in the evolving identity and access management space? What's your take on what the public knows about what you're doing?
So, regretfully, I think the wider public is not very aware of the IAM market, and they should be, because it affects their everyday life, right? We can't go online without using IAM in some way or another. But I am happy to say that I think things are overall improving in the wider IT and security industries. Security industry is lagging behind, actually. IT has started to adopt more and more IAM practices widely, but the security industry is lacking in that. And I'm saying this as a security practitioner for the last 25 plus years. And it's challenging. The security teams need to learn a lot about the need to secure IAM, what IAM solutions do, and how critical they are to the entire security of the organization.
Yeah, no identity, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, one of Authomize's key differentiators is its ability to provide detailed visibility to your customers' IAM ecosystems. Why is this visibility so crucial in today's cloud-dependent landscape?
Yeah, so it begins from the most simple thing. You can't secure what you can't see. So if you don't see what you have in the cloud, you have no chance to secure it. And we talked earlier about the change in the mode of work and how people are working more remotely and more with cloud services. And again, you have more assets than you ever had before in the cloud, inside your applications, inside the service you're using. You have more identities there. More people are acting. You have your employees, you have contractors. And eventually, one of the key elements of this visibility is differentiating between, for Authomize, is helping you see what's de facto there in your cloud right now configured, not de jure, what you assume that you configured. So this is very important, because that's, for example, you have a great biometric system, but somebody misconfigured the path that goes around it, and everybody has a problem. So this is where we come in.
Well, that was my next question, is what are some of the examples of fraud threats that you can prevent? And you just explained the biometric hack. You can prevent that from occurring. Any other examples in the biometric space? So
as we said, we are not doing the actual authentication, but we can, as we plug into your IAM systems, we can monitor whatever modality you want, because you can implement any policy in Authomize. You can say, I want to make sure that my financial data is always accessed with, fingerprint validation. And we would look into that.
Again, yeah, you're policing the IAM system. You're monitoring the IAM system. Got it. It is clear Authomize is a keen collaborator from the channel partners I've seen listed on your site. What role do partnerships play in Authomize's strategy, and why is interoperability so important in today's identity business?
Well, I am going to have to try to keep this short, because I could talk about this for days.
You got to go home and see your kids. It's late there.
Yes.
Okay.
So we have great partners like Ping, Microsoft, and AWS, and quite a few others. And you can stay tuned for, don't forget Okta, right?
That's right.
And by the way, you can stay tuned for updates coming soon, really, really soon, like next week, and they would be pretty cool as well. And I think everyone should specialize in the things that they do best. So you get companies doing biometrics, you get companies doing access management or identity governance. And I know there is certain consolidation in the market, but I think infrastructure should focus on infrastructure, and security should focus on security. And this is where we build the partnership together, right? We come and we help secure the identity infrastructure. And there are endless apps, each has its own IAM, and you need a way to support everything. And you can't do this alone. This is why we build a partnership strategy, both with partners that add connectivity, partners that add to our product and we can collaborate with. And this is really amazing. This is the best industry to collaborate together, the identity industry.
All right, last question. Everyone that we're talking to, and even at Identiverse, when we spoke to the attendees, said that 2022 is an inflection point for the identity world in terms of demand and adoption. What have been some of your highlights this year so far, with me saying that question? And what do you expect to see in the next 6 months to a year from now in your identity world?
Interesting. So I think there is a certain movement in the industry that is very clear, more attention. It's getting a lot more attention. And we see, for example, the psychotic Centrify becoming the Linea earlier in this year, and really merging together. SailPoint taken off the market by Soma Bravo, if I'm not mispronouncing that. And we've seen on the other end, big security events like the breach that Okta had in February. And overall, the identity industry is really, really hot, right? And while we're looking at it, we see a lot of attackers from inside the darknet communities as a security company, focusing more on identity. They are starting to talk about how to subvert insiders and how to use those insiders to subvert the identity systems. So this is really interesting from our perspective, and we're monitoring that, obviously.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you for your time. What's the best way if our listeners want to get a hold of Authomize, what's the best way to get a hold of the company?
Oh, just visit us at authomize.com and reach out. We're happy to talk at any time.
Perfect. Again, thank you for your time, Gal.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
And so concludes our conversation with Gal Diskin, co-founder and CTO of Authomize. To learn more about the topics discussed in this episode, visit authomize.com. And for everything you need to know about identity, authentication, and biometrics, stay posted to FindBiometrics.com. I want to thank Gal for joining us in today's episode, and thank you to Doug OGorden for conducting the interview. Our podcast theme music is by Logomrad. I have been your host, Peter Counter. Thank you for listening to the ID Talk Podcast.